Belgium is a federal state comprising 3 communities, 3 regions, and 4 language areas. For each of these subdivision types, the subdivisions together make up the entire country. In other words, the types overlap. The language areas were established by the Second Gilson Act, which entered into force on August 2, 1963. The division into language areas was included in the Belgian Constitution in 1970. Through constitutional reforms in the 1970s and 1980s, regionalization of the unitary state led to a 3-tiered federation. Federal, regional, and community governments were created, a compromise designed to minimize linguistic, cultural, social, and economic tensions. Schematic Overview. This is a schematic overview of the basic federal structure of Belgium as defined by Title I of the Belgian Constitution. Each of the entities either have their own parliament and government, their own council and executive college. The entities in italic do not have own institutions, arrondissements, because they are purely administrative, language areas because they merely define the linguistic regime of a municipality, and the Flemish Region because its powers are exercised by the Flemish community. Country subdivisions. The 3 communities are the Dutch-speaking Flemish community, the French-speaking French community, the German-speaking German-speaking community. The 3 regions are the Brussels Capital Region, the Flemish Region, the Walloon Region. The 4 language areas, occasionally referred to as linguistic regions, are the Dutch language area, the French language area, the German language area, the bilingual Brussels Capital Area. All these entities have geographical boundaries. The language areas have no offices or powers and exist de facto as geographical circumscriptions, serving only to delineate the empowered subdivisions. The institutional communities are thus equally geographically determined. Belgian communities do not officially refer directly to groups of people but rather to specific political, linguistic and cultural competencies of the country. There is no subnationality in Belgium. All communities thus have a precise and legally established area where they can exercise the competencies. The Flemish community has legal authority only within the Dutch language area and bilingual Brussels Capital Language Area. The French-speaking community analogously has powers only within the French language area of the Walloon Region and in the Brussels Capital Region, and the German community in the German language area, which is a small part of the province of Liege in the Walloon Region, and borders Germany. The constitutional language areas determine the official languages in the municipalities, as well as the geographical limits of the institutions empowered for specific matters. Although this would allow for 7 parliaments and governments when the communities and regions were created in 1980, Flemish politicians decided to officially merge the Flemish region into the Flemish community, with 1 parliament, 1 government and 1 administration exercising both regional and community competencies. Although Flemish parliamentarians from the Brussels Capital Region cannot vote on competencies of the Flemish region, thus in the Dutch language area a single institutional body of parliament and government is empowered for all except federal and specific municipal matters, while the Walloon region and the French community have separate parliaments and governments. The Parliament of the French community draws its members from the French-speaking members of the Walloon Parliament and the Parliament of the Brussels Capital Region, and ministers of the Walloon government often serve as ministers in the government of the French community as well. Subordinate divisions. The Flemish region and the Walloon region each comprise 5 provinces. The Brussels Capital Region is not a province, nor does it contain any. The three regions are further subdivided into 589 municipalities, which in general consist of several sub-municipalities. These sub-municipalities were independent municipalities in the past, but do no longer serve an official purpose. Lesser subnational entities include the intramunicipal districts, the administrative, the electoral and the judicial arrondissements, police districts, as well as the new intermunicipal police zones. Competences. The federal state retains a considerable common heritage. This includes justice, defense, federal police, social security, public debt and other aspects of public finances, nuclear energy, and state-owned companies. The state is responsible for the obligations of Belgium and its federalized institutions towards the European Union and NATO. It controls substantial parts of public health, home affairs and foreign affairs. Communities exercise competences only within linguistically determined geographical boundaries. Originally oriented towards the individuals of a community's language, culture, education, the use of the relevant language. Extensions to personal matters less directly attributed to the language comprise health policy and assistance to individuals. Regions have authority in fields connected with the territory in the widest meaning of the term, thus relating to the economy, employment, agriculture, water policy, housing, public works, energy, transport, the environment, town and country planning, nature conservation, credit, and foreign trade. They supervise the provinces, municipalities and intercommunal utility companies. In several fields, the different levels each have their own say on specificities. On education, for instance, the autonomy of the communities does neither include decisions about the compulsory aspect nor setting minimum requirements for awarding qualifications, which remain federal matters. Each level can be involved in scientific research and international relations associated with its powers. Communities. Communities were created in 1970 as cultural communities with limited power. In 1980, more power was transferred from the federal state to these entities and they became simply communities. Both the Flemish and French community have jurisdiction over the area of the Brussels Capital Region. Consequently, they do not have a defined number of inhabitants. The German-speaking community is the only community with an area over which they have sole jurisdiction as a community. It is located within the Walloon Region, which has even transferred some regional powers to the German-speaking community with regards to its area. Regions. Flemish Region. The Flemish region of Flanders occupies the northern part of Belgium. It has a surface area of 13,522 square kilometers, or 44.29% of Belgium, and is divided into 5 provinces which contain a total of 308 municipalities. The official language is Dutch. French can be used for certain administrative purposes in a dozen particular municipalities with language facilities around the Brussels Capital Region and at the border with the Walloon Region. The Flemish region has no institutions on its own. Upon the creation of the Provisional Regions in 1974, a Provisional Flemish Regional Council was installed with Mechelen as seat. However, with the definitive regions in 1980, its competencies were transferred to the Flemish community in order to have unified Flemish institutions that combine both regional and community competencies, namely the Flemish Parliament and Flemish government and its administration. Regional laws do, however, need to mention whether they are applicable to the community, the region or both. Since the capital of the Flemish community is Brussels and its institutions have the seats there, It also indirectly serves as seat of government of the Flemish region, even though the city is not part of it. Additionally, the city of Mechelen still has a relation to the Flemish region as seat. It serves as the location for head office during European elections. Flanders contains 5 provinces: West Flanders, East Flanders, Antwerp, Flemish Brabant and Limburg. Brussels Capital Region. The Brussels Capital Region, a Brussels region, is centrally located and completely surrounded by the province of Flemish Brabant and thus by the Flemish region. With a surface area of 162 square kilometers, or 0.53% of Belgium, it is the smallest of the 3 regions. It contains the city of Brussels, which acts both as federal and regional capital, and 18 other municipalities. Its official languages are both Dutch and French. In the region, plus or minus 78% speak French at home and plus or minus 22% speak Dutch, although a significant number of people combine these 2 languages. The Brussels Capital Region contains only one administrative arrondissement, the arrondissement of Brussels Capital. However, for juridical purposes, it forms an arrondissement with surrounding Flemish areas, the arrondissement of Brussels. Within Brussels, the 2 communities have their own institutions that act as intermediary levels of government and public service, sitting below the community institutions and above the municipal institutions: Flemish Community Commission and its administration, French Community Commission and its Executive Commission and its administration. In addition to these 2, a common community commission exists, which is the entity when the Brussels Capital Region exercises community powers. In these cases, there are more requirements from the legislative process in order to safeguard the interests of both linguistic communities. Since the splitting of Brabant in 1995, the Brussels region does not belong to any of the provinces. Within the region, most of the provincial competencies are assumed by the Brussels regional institutions and community commissions. Additionally, there is a governor of Brussels Capital, analogously to provinces. Walloon Region. The Walloon Region of Wallonia occupies the southern part of Belgium. It has a surface area of 16,844 square kilometers, or 55.18% of Belgium, and is also divided into 5 provinces which contain a total of 262 municipalities. Its capital is Namur. The official languages are French, and only in the 9 eastern municipalities that form the German-speaking community near the German border, which were ceded by Germany after World War I. German. Dutch, however, may be used for administrative purposes in the 4 municipalities with language facilities at the border with Flanders, and German in 2 such municipalities near the German-speaking community. The Walloon region contains 5 provinces: Hainaut, Walloon Brabant, Namur, Legion Luxembourg,